It's another beautiful day in Yukon Valley. We just finished up our stream where we hunted around for different animals, where we had a great time, had a great stream, got a diamond cinnamon teal, nothing really to brag about, but you know, it was something, and now it's starting to snow again. How about that? Yukon, keeping you on your toes. Listen, something very important, people kept asking me during the streams, what are your skills? What are your perks that you use in your Hunter Call the Wild game? And so, you know, I honestly just, it's up to you. It's crafted towards how you play the game, but if it helps you to see what I'm using, maybe it is helpful. I don't know. So I thought first off we would just kind of show exactly what I use real quick. That way, if you just kind of want to take a mental picture or a picture with your phone, then you can do that and look at your skill trees and your perks and then kind of compare and contrast. That's something you can do. You can see I have 3 in locate tracks, 3 in track knowledge, 1 in only having when it rains, 1 in hardened, 1 in connect the dots, 2 in soft feet, 0 in weather prediction, 1 in endurance here, 1 in improvised blind, 0 here, 1 in disturb vegetation, 0 in wind prediction, and 1 in startle call. This is kind of an interesting one, but I think it's pretty useful. Going into the ambusher tree here, you can see that we have 1 in descent seeker. This is honestly just to go into tier number 1 here. Spotting knowledge, 3 there, 0, and then 1 in the more the merrier. This was kind of just also something I added in to get into tier 2. We have sight spotting, very important so that you can spot the animals. 1 fatal attraction and 0 for impact resistant. And then you can see I honestly just didn't find these other skills as important as the ones on Stalker skill tree. So with that, that's gonna be my skills, okay? Let's go into perks real quick so you can see what I have here. I use rifles primarily, and I use these particular ones here. I have 2 in muscle memory, and I have 2 in steady hands. 3 in breath control. Zeroing, you know, some people love zeroing. Some people love taking long distance shots. I don't care for it. I was the kid growing up where if a deer was 250 yards out, you just aimed at the top of the back and boom, it was right in the kill zone, you know. Never used any sort of zeroing. I just aimed to play the game same way. So I have 0 and zeroing, how about that? And then 1 in focus shot, which I think it comes in handy. Handguns, we have 1 in sprint and load, which is very important for all of your weapons. 1 in survival instinct, and then 0 on the other ones. You know, honestly, if that really is your thing to get some of these other skills, go ahead and do it. That's up to you. I just didn't find them very important. Going into shotgun here, we have both eyes open, and then we have body control, 1 in each, and then in less recoil here, recoil management, we have 2 out of 3. Going into archery. Archery is one of those things where if you want to pour points into something and you have an interest in doing archery, go ahead and do it. Archery's got some great perks here. Full draw is a good one. We got 1 in that one. 1 in move and shoot. We've got 1 in recycle. 2 in increased confidence, 1 in like a pro, and then 2 in pumping iron. They're all pretty good perks here, all very useful in their own way. But like I said, you can create your character however you play the game. If you don't play shooting bows, then don't put any perks in archery just because I do. That's entirely up to you. With that out of the way, let's go into more detail. Let me explain everything. So if you got what you needed, go ahead and stop the video. Go on to your game. I don't want to, you know, I don't want anyone to dislike this video because it's too long and it isn't helpful. But now we're going to go into why I have these certain things. Let's look at locate tracks here. The directional tracking cone becomes more accurate and narrower both in the world and on the map. It's important, you know, and first, I mean, you have to have a point into this to go into tier 1 anyway, so you might as well go ahead and do it. Level 2 increases the distance at which the tracks are visible. Sometimes it's strange, maybe the game is built this way. When you go with like level 9 animals or just like difficult animals, for some reason the tracks get harder to follow. I don't know what the deal is, but it's kind of nice to be able to see tracks out a little bit further than you might without this. And then of course the directional tracking cone becomes narrower, making it easier. Seriously, sometimes I cannot find the next track and I get so frustrated and I wander about and I just think this is a waste of time. And having that directional tracking cone a little narrower helps me out, I think, anyway. But feel free to just avoid that if you don't think it'll be useful to you. Track knowledge, super important, and I'd say definitely put all 3 into this. Let me explain why. Level 1 reveals information about the animal's gender. You know, look on some tracks, look at the vocalizations, learn if it's going to be a female or a male. I mean, that's step 1. That's step 1. If you're hearing an animal in the distance, is this a male or female? Is it going to be worth chasing down? You know, that's important to me. Level 2 reveals information about the approximate animal group size, zone tracks, and the approximate health. And this is the important part, the animal's approximate health when investigating blood trails. So you can look at a blood trail and see if the animal has got a blood trail and it says, you know, 50 to 75, and then you see another one and it says 25 to 50, you know that the animal's going to die. Eventually it'll get to 0 to 25, and by that time you should see the animal in front of you because it's going to be dead. And I find that important, just to, you know, say, oh, well, I'm almost there. Level 3, though, reveals information about the animal's approximate weight and fur type when investigating disturbed vegetation. Now, this last part, the fur type when investigating disturbed vegetation, that's kind of a weird one, so let's keep that to the side for now, but let's talk about approximate weight. This is super important. When you look at a moose, you know, it'll be able to tell you, oh, this goes 1,000 to 1,201, and you know that that's probably going to be a level 3, sometimes level 4. Very rarely it's going to be, but it should be a level 3. Scoring 2.0 kind of messed with it, but 1201 to 1366, I want to say, is the next level of moose, and that's going to be your level 4. You will have some diamonds even that are 1201 to 1366, or should be, and then above that or closer to that top zone there is going to be your diamond weight moose. So if you're going along and you see a track on the ground and you look at it, and it says that it's going to be, you know, a weight 1201 to 1366, you can at least think in your mind, oh, this is a good sized moose. This might be worth tracking down because it'll look great in my trophy lodge, even if it isn't a diamond. And that's just pretty good. You can see here I have 1 point in hardened, which just gives me 50% increase in health. Sometimes I get into a tussle with some water buffalo or Cape buffalo, and I have a sliver of health left, and it's like, oh my god, I cannot believe I made it out alive, basically. But 15% health. I mean, if I wouldn't have had that 50% health, I would have been dead if I didn't have it. So that's important to me. And then, of course, I just have 1 in here. I want to say you have to have 5 in tier 1 to move on to tier 2. So you can see 3 plus 1 is 4. And then I had to have another 1 in here. So it decreases your visibility in foggy weather. This is kind of, you know, whatever. If you feel like you need the second one, which decreases your visibility in rainy weather, go ahead and do that. Up to you. Now, going into connect the dots. Sometimes the tracks, you know, if you're chasing an animal and it runs away from you and then it doesn't, you know, isn't scared anymore and decides to come back, but then sees you again and then runs off again. Now you have a Harry Potter lightning bolt, you know, tracking sort of thing. Sometimes the tracks cross over each other. Gets super confusing. And this skill will connect all the tracks together so that you can make sure you're following the correct track and not get confused by the tracks crossing over each other. It's just kind of a useful thing to have. Then, of course, soft feet. Soft feet has got to be super duper important. It's going to reduce the noise generated from moving through foliage as well as larger vegetation such as bushes and shrubs. Now, as you'll see in the next tier, hiding in bushes and shrubs is how you get really close to big animals and stuff like that. So the less noise you make when you're crawling around in them, the better. It's as easy as that. Tier number 3, here you can see we have 1, an improvised blind, which further decreases your visibility when inside large bushes and shrubs. Like I said, when you're trying to sneak into a diamond red deer or something on Quattro Colinas, and you're trying to use trees and bushes and shrubs to move your way up closer to it, you're going to have to use those shrubs and bushes. And so this is going to help you make sure that you stay as hidden as you can to get as close as you can to use whatever you want to use. You know, if you want to use a bow or something like that, this will give you that chance. It'll give you a better chance anyway to do it. Endurance. I sprint around all the time. It allows me to run around a lot faster, see a lot more points, need zones wherever animals might be. And sometimes when you're running around, all of a sudden you have this ginormous moose with these ginormous antlers, running past you, and you're just thinking, oh my god, I need to shoot that. You bring up your rifle, it's out of range for iron sights, and so you put your scope back on, and now you're trying to hold your breath. And it's like, dude, hold your breath. I just want to shoot this moose. And then before you know it, the moose has wandered into some trees, and you're like, oh my god, I cannot believe that. Endurance is going to help with that situation. It's going to allow you to bring your breath back faster than you would without it, which is important to me. Disturbed vegetation reveals a new track type, and this is important on its own. Sometimes you can't find a scat on the ground or tracks or something just from their hooves or their paws or whatever it may be. Disturbed vegetation gives you an extra track. So if you can't find an animal, you lost it or something like that, this at least gives you a third track to make it a little easier to track them. But at the same time, you can track them, and it will tell you with the track knowledge skill level 3, it will tell you their fur type is, whether it be melanistic, piebald, leucistic, albino, whatever it may be, even going to black versus gray versus, whatever it may be for Cape Buffalo. This it's a helpful thing. I think it is anyway. And then you can see my last point I have in Startle Call. Now, this is a big one because, if you like zeroing, then Startle Call is going to be completely useless. You can't use Startle Call and zeroing at the same time. But it's amazing how, I'm hiding in a bush and I'm waiting for something to come in front of me. Maybe it's a herd of wildebeest or something like that. And they're all running like crazy animals because they're wildebeest. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, he's in perfect view. If I could just not take a running shot on him, it would be fantastic. And then I remember, oh, I have Startle Call, and then I can use this skill. All of the wildebeest immediately stop. I get a perfect double lung shot. Boom, got my diamond wildebeest. It's a pretty useful thing. If you're not sure about the active skill that you want to use, give a Startle Call a try. The higher the level of the animal, the quicker they're going to react to the Startle Call. So a level 9 animal, it's going to stop, and then it's going to go. So, when it comes to a stop, you've got to be ready to take that shot, and it takes a little getting used to, but I think Startle Call is a great skill, especially if you're used to being a bow hunter and kind of doing that, kind of to hold them in one spot. This is that exact thing, and there's actually audio kind of like that when you use the Startle Call. It's pretty cool. Sometimes they'll just click, though. Going into Ambusher, let's look in the details here. We have Scent Tinkerer. Like I said, I just put a point in this so I can move on to tier number 1. I never use scents, ever. Tier number 1, though, this one, super important. Spotting knowledge. When you spot an animal, will you be able to see the health of the animal? Can you look at it and go, oh, that is the animal I shot, but winged it, and I need to make sure that my second shot is definitely in the lungs so that I get that checkbox, because I can see that it's at 25 to 50 right now. That's what that level 1 is all about. Level 2, you can see the approximate trophy rating. This is when you see a moose with big antlers and you're thinking, oh my gosh, that looks like a big moose, and then you look at it and it's 1,000 to 1,201, and you realize, okay, it's not as big as I thought it was, but it's a pretty big moose. Or you see that it's 1201 to 1366 or whatever it may be, and you think, oh yeah, this is a big moose. All right, let's get this. Level 2, the spotting knowledge is going to allow you to do that. Level 3 reveals information about how aware the animal is by nearby threats. Now this is going to be important when you're sneaking up on a level 9 red deer or something like that, and you look at it and it says calm versus nervous, a Cape buffalo saying it's aggressive or something like that and it's about to come attack you. This is important, having that level 3 spotting knowledge. I would recommend just getting all 3 points of spotting knowledge. Super important there. Go ahead and do that. And then you can see I just put a point into more of the merrier. Whatever. 0. I have 1 in Fatal Attraction. I think, yeah, just having the increased chance of attracting animals to your location when using collars. I think that's important. You know, if you do want a chance of getting animals to come to you, you know, maybe it's a level 9. You have all the does coming towards you, and the big buck or something is still in the back, and he hasn't decided to come towards you. Maybe this level 1 will help you attract him towards you. Maybe it will be helpful. And then, as you can see, 1 in sight spotting here unlocks the ability to spot animals while in aim mode with your scope, like your weapons, your rifles, and everything. Super important. Super important as far as convenience goes. I mean, I can't. Do you really want to switch back and forth between your binoculars and your rifle all the time? It's super annoying. You can spot them with your iron sights. You can spot them with your scope. I mean, basically, I still use my binoculars, but you honestly don't have to. You could leave your binoculars away. The only reason I keep it out is because it gives me an approximate range, and I'm able to see more of the screen when I use the binoculars, and so I kind of use both. But it definitely is able to confirm that the big animal you saw in your binoculars is indeed the one that you want to shoot when you're looking through your scope. So that's important. All right, we've finished up our skills here. If that's all you wanted, some you know, extra content of me talking about my skills and why I'm using them, then you can stop the video here. But let's move on into perks. Rifle skills. Okay, so unlocks the ability to ready your next shot without leaving aim mode for rifles, shotguns, and handguns. The one thing you should pick up from the perks is that they don't always only affect the firearm that they're talking about. So this is a rifle perk, but it's going to affect rifles, shotguns, and handguns, and those are the very important perks that you should pick up. So muscle memory. I mean, of course, if you can shoot and then be able to shoot again really quickly, this is very important. And then obviously level 2 just increases that, so I have both points in this muscle memory skill. Steady hands decreases wobble when in aim mode using any weapon. Once again, any weapon: shotguns, handguns, rifles, archery. It's going to work. You're not gonna have decreased wobble, which is very important. Hold breath. I'm always holding my breath. If you're not holding your breath, oh my god. But holding your breath, decrease heart rate penalty from exhaling. So when you know, sometimes very early on when you're holding your breath and then the animal does something crazy like turn its butt to you or something like that, and you're like, oh god, and so you let go of the holding your breath, and your guy goes and all of a sudden the scope's going up and down like crazy, and it's like, oh my god, dude, are you terrible holding your breath or something like that? This is going to help your guy so that, you know, he goes, and then you're able to hold your breath again once the animal's like, oh, by the way, I do want to go broadside again. This will help you out with that. Level 2 just increases that, and then actually level 3 decreases your aim wobble even more when you're holding your breath, so that's pretty great right there. Decreasing your aim wobble and then decreasing your aim wobble even more when you're holding your breath, which is the whole point of holding your breath, so you better do that. Focus shot. Holding your breath increases zoom when using rifles with iron sights, red dots, or holographic sights. I find this useful. I love using the 470 Nitro Express. I think it's a great rifle to use on Cape Buffalo. Super nostalgic, and even when Cape Buffalo are running at you and you're like, oh, I can't do this with a scope, sometimes it is useful just to hold your breath and, you know, zoom in a little bit to get a good shot. I think it's a good skill. Going into handguns here, we have 1 point in sprint and load. This does it for all weapons. You have a Cape Buffalo in front of you, you shoot it, it's still going around like crazy, so then you need to sprint out of the way and you need to reload at the same time. Boom. Sprint and reload. Pretty easy there. And then also, 1 point into damage from animal attacks is reduced for a short duration after landing a shot in an aggressive animal. So you put a shot into a Cape Buffalo, it then hits you because you thought that you were going to get a heart shot or something like that, but then you didn't. This is going to help make sure that it does less damage than it would have done if you hadn't attacked it beforehand, shot it with your handgun there or rifle, whatever it may be. Going into shotguns here, we do have some pretty cool stuff. Decrease edge blur when using shotguns, iron, red dot, and holographic sights. Each level unlocked increases the effect. So when you're goose hunting and you want to be able to see other geese around you, you shoot one goose and then you shoot the goose right next to it, but then you're like, okay, where were the other ones at? If you have decreased blur around you, you might be able to see the other geese in your peripheral, which means that you can react faster, get more geese, you see. Going into this one, body control. Weapon sights align faster after rotating the weapon. This is honestly something I don't even notice too much, but go ahead, put a point to that. And then recoil management, super effective. Less recoil when firing any weapon, and able to fire a follow-up shot sooner. You can see I only have 2 out of 3 on this. I should honestly have all 3 points with the new M1 if I wanted to control my recoil better. I think that would be super helpful. So go ahead and give that all 3 points if you love using the new M1 with its recoil. And then go into archery here. Archery's got some pretty good stuff here. Going into full draw, increases the time an arrow can be drawn. So as you draw your arrow and then the animal starts doing some crazy stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, just turn broadside, just do it real quick and this will all be over with. Your guy will slowly go lower and lower until he has to put the arrow back down because it's too much for him. Well, this allows you to hold it longer, the more points you have in it, which could be helpful if you like using bows. Here we go, move and shoot. Decrease wobble while moving in aim mode using any weapon. Once again, decreasing the wobble again of any weapon. Very useful there. 2 points, and increased confidence boosts the accuracy of all bows and crossbows. This is kind of random stuff that goes on, evidently, according to the description, but it helps give you confidence when using bows. Could come in very handy. And then, like a pro, unlocks the ability to enter aim mode with the bow while prone. Very, very important when you need to stay prone and stay hidden and you want to shoot your bow at a diamond animal. You can stay prone and shoot your bow like a pro. That's the name of the skill. Look at that. Recycling. This allows you to retrieve arrows and bolts. Not super important, but you can see I put a point in that so I can move on. 2 pumping iron. Increased arm strength means more draw length. Increases the kinetic energy of all bows, which in turn means more damage, penetration, and speed using the same arrows. Each level unlocked increases this effect. So more damage, more penetration, more speed. You see the pictures of an arrow going clean through a Cape Buffalo or a water buffalo. This is pumping iron, baby. This is pumping iron. Your guy is freaking buff. You don't understand. That whole safari outfit is just making you look real skinny, but you're actually super muscle. You have no idea. That's important, I think. And honestly, with that, that's our skills and perks. That is all of them. So maybe you don't want to follow my guide as closely as what I've just discussed, but you do want to know a few things that I definitely recommend that you choose so that you can kind of choose everything else and it is still your character that you created yourself. Well, let's go ahead and talk about the Stalker skill tree here. 1 point into locate tracks. This is important. You can put more points into it, but really make sure you get 3 points into track knowledge. Very important. I think so anyway. Moving on to soft feet. Get both of these. Both of these in soft feet. Very important here. And then improvise blind. Also very important. Do whatever you need to do to get these other skills. Get them if you want them, but these are my very important ones. And then if you end up sprinting around a lot like I do, get endurance, and then disturb vegetation. If you think it'll be useful to have an extra track to track animals or figure out if they're a special rare variety of that animal, that could be important to you as well. Going into ambusher here, really on ambusher, only 2 skills that I find important here, and that is going to be spotting knowledge. And you can see I have all 3 in here, and then in sight spotting. It gives you the ability to spot the animals while in aim mode with weapons. Very, very important. It's just convenience. It is convenience, and go ahead and do it. Makes it a lot easier for you. But with that, that's pretty much going to wrap up the very important skills that I find in the game. When we're talking about important perks, really perks, if you enjoy using handguns, I enjoy using handguns, just not as much as the next guy. But what I would really pay attention to is these skills that make it easier to use all weapons. So you can see here with muscle memory, leaving aim mode for rifles, shotguns, and handguns, increases the ready speed for firing with all weapons. You take some time and look through all of these and see the ones that say using any weapon or anything like that. Those are the ones I recommend. You'll find them in every one of them. Unlocks the ability to reload all weapons while running. Very important. And then this is any weapon as well. Look through these all and find the ones that you think will be important to you, especially, decrease while moving in aim mode with any weapon. Each one of these perk trees has a skill or perk that will affect all of your weapons, and those are the ones I recommend. I hope you found this entertaining. I hope you found it very useful. I hope you skipped around because this is a lot of talking and you saw exactly what you needed to see to improve your gameplay. I'm sorry if this was a super boring video. We're coming on 25 minutes. That's a super long video. But yeah, perks and skills. They're kind of gray area for some people. I really want to know what is the best thing, and I hope I did a good job of laying it all out, and I hope that you found what you needed to improve your gameplay. And that's all this is about. Like and subscribe. I hope this was useful. Like the video if you found it helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Twitch and YouTube. We're streaming on Twitch Wednesdays, and we're streaming on YouTube Mondays. How about that? Changing the plans there. Pretty cool though. I'm excited. I'm loving being able to talk to people on YouTube and to people on Twitch. So I just thought, you know what? We stream twice, 3 times a week. We might as well mix it up a little bit. Help everyone out. So that's what we're gonna do there, and I can't wait to talk to everyone. Mondays and Wednesdays are some of my favorite nights, talking to our favorite Call of the Wild people. That is amazing. Yeah, that's gonna wrap it up. As always, everyone, keep gaming, never stop.